Skyrim VR is a new version of Skyrim that takes advantage of immersive virtual reality technology. Mike, you've played it, right?
Yes, I put my face right in it.
You got right up in Tamriel.
Yeah, shoved my face in Tamriel.
Right up into Skyrim.
Yes, it was excellent. I had a really good time, and yeah, it's like a whole new game almost.
Oh, really? Give several reasons why.
Will do.
Tell me about the movement.
Right, so instead of walking around in Skyrim, you now teleport. So obviously nausea is a big issue in VR.
How did you feel? Did you feel nauseous?
I felt fine, but I was only playing it for 10 minutes. So,
okay, all right.
It's difficult to qualify that. But yeah, so instead of walking around, you have this kind of teleporting system where you point the controller where you want to go and then hit a button and you will teleport to there. And it's kind of like, it's like a grenade arc in a game, so you can kind of hop over tables and things like that if necessary. But it is instantaneous, so there's no motion at all. It's more like a sort of slideshow, essentially. And then if you need to adjust where you're facing, so where your shoulders are facing, there are buttons on the right-hand PlayStation Move controller that will rotate you, again, like instantaneously, to at about sort of 10 or 15 degree intervals. So between the two of those, it was quite hard to get to grips with the controls within sort of 10 minutes or so. But the ability to just point where you want to go, and it's not just in front of you. You know, if you want to go over your shoulder, you can sort of turn your head and point where you want to go, and it will teleport you there.
Do you think you could see yourself playing it like that for maybe a couple of hours?
Yeah, absolutely.
Nausea aside, just looking at the controls.
I think it will reduce nausea because there's no real movement. It's sort of a series of static places that you're standing. So yeah, it sort of feels a bit like Myst, that old like slideshowy sort of game.
We're finally back there.
Yeah,
we finally got back to Myst.
Technology's come back around again. But but instead of watching a slideshow, every point that you're standing in is Skyrim and you're looking around. Yeah. So they started us at the top of the mountain, just outside Bleak Falls Barrow, which is one of the really early missions. And yeah, it was incredible. I'm looking up at the mountains, and the sense of scale is amazing. There's a dragon in the sky, and it was astonishing.
Rad. Skyrim's all about swords and shooting fire out your hands. How does that work in VR? Is it all right?
Well, this is the big one that makes it feel like a completely different game, because obviously you're used to kind of Skyrim combat, you know, right trigger to do the right hand, left trigger to do the left hand. This is full motion controlled combat.
Okay.
So when you swing a sword and hit someone with it, that's how you hit them. You know, there's no hitting a trigger to activate the thing. So that, in terms of immersion, increases it enormously, because as you're waving your hands around, you're waving your weapons around.
And can you like move your sword like this?
Yeah, you can rotate it and tilt it and kind of like almost hold it in your hand. It's, you know, in your other hand. It's really, really impressive. The fidelity is really, really good. And it's just great to play Skyrim with motion controlled sword swinging. Obviously it lacks a bit of feedback when you hit someone because you're not really hitting anything, but
you don't actually feel their bones shatter.
Yeah, exactly. Which, I mean, obviously is the dream, Luke. But
I mean, it's a dream.
Yeah,
it's a recurring dream.
But it still feels good to swing that thing around, and then I had magic on my other hand. On my right hand, I had like the flame magic. So I was basically like firing flames out of my hand in sort of all directions.
It's the Mike Channel dream.
That is the other Mike Channel dream. So it's cracking bones and barbecuing people with my hands.
Sure.
Both of which were enabled by Skyrim VR. I think it's going to make a huge difference to how you play the game and how much you feel inside that world. It would have been easy to make this a game that you just play on the controller and the combat was exactly the same as Skyrim, but it feels totally different.
Cool. Now, the most recent big game to be in VR was Resident Evil 7, and that was a lot more frightening when you were properly in it. Mm-hmm. Is this the same?
Yes, it is a much more intense experience. Obviously, Bleak Falls Barrow, people will know that's the level that has the giant spider that comes down from the roof.
And old Spidey.
Yeah, having that happen in VR, and you know, I don't know if
it's a good job Ellen wasn't playing
this.
Yes,
it's a very good job Ellen wasn't playing this, because she would have sonic screamed the entire place down, I think, probably.
Yeah.
But yeah, that thing's disgusting, and it slobbers, and when it's right up in your face, you know, doing its horrible mouth thing that spiders do.
Yeah.
It's a really, really intense experience.
Yeah.
And actually the spider thing was horrible and really disturbing. But even just like the Draugr later on in that level, the kind of zombie guys, I kind of wandered up to one of the ones that was sleeping in its crypt, and I kind of hit it with the sword, and it got up and it stood in front of me, and it was about 8 foot tall. And I was like, I made a terrible, terrible mistake.
Well, that's something you don't always get in Skyrim, the sense that things are taller than you.
Yeah,
interesting.
The scale is bigger, but yeah, as an experience, it's much more intense when it's up in your face, and yeah, that spider is going to give me nightmares tonight.
It's going to be all right.
I'm not sure it is.
Does it make it harder?
Yes, it absolutely does, and I think to the point where they're probably going to have to scale the difficulty of the game down.
Right.
When we were playing in there, we had infinite health, and it was absolutely
Must be
necessary
nice.
because it's really difficult to get to grips with the combat, and so you just end up sort of standing there while they hit you, and you're waving a sword around, and eventually they fall over.
Yeah.
And I think there's no way that at the current level of difficulty, as Skyrim is at the moment, that they'll be able to translate that to VR. I think they're going to have to at least scale it back by default. Maybe there'll be an option to play in a harder difficulty mode, but actually I think for the most part you'll be playing it on almost easy mode, because the combat is so much harder to get to grips with.
Right.
Because your movement is restricted. You spend a lot of time standing still, which you would never do in Skyrim. In combat you'd be constantly circling and kind of moving around. But
Yeah.
you can't really teleport around, or there's no strafing, for example. So
Sure.
I think they're definitely, I mean, it's all still work in progress, obviously. This is very early. They've not really announced a release date, I don't think. So these are all sort of technical challenges that they'll have to work out in VR, but that's one of the things about translating an existing game into VR, is that they have to think about this stuff, and I think it will be an easier game in VR.
So how's it look? What have they done to make it, work mechanically in terms of menus and stuff like that?
Right, so there are quick menus on your controllers now where you can kind of switch between the weapons and things, and I think that's going to become something you rely on a lot more.
Yeah.
So instead of going into a separate magic slot or whatever, you have all your weapons that you can switch between your hands in an instant, and I think that's absolutely necessary, because obviously using Move controllers,
Yeah.
it's going to be really difficult to navigate menus and things like that, which is another challenge for a large RPG like Skyrim.
Sure.
But actually the weapon switching was really handy. I could switch to a bow and arrow extremely quickly just using one of the Move controllers, rather than having to go into menus or preset things and stuff. It just had an arrangement of my most used weapons there, and I could switch between them, which was pretty handy. There's little things I quite liked though, like the dragon shout button is obviously that was a single button on the controller.
Yeah.
But you have the shout on a button on the controller, and
Yeah.
obviously it, instead of your weapons, which are your hands, it comes out your mouth. So it's where you're looking with the VR
cool.
headset.
So
which is
you
not something I
aim the
thought-
Fuss Rodar.
with your face, which is not something I thought about at all, but yeah, it
Cool.
makes perfect sense. So yeah, it's, the interface has been cleaned up a bit and made more streamlined and stuff for VR. I assume if they're going to put the whole game in there, which it feels like they are, this is a complete replica of the first mission, that they're going to have to allow you the kind of depth of sort of manipulation that the inventory screens and all that stuff allow, but they've definitely cleaned up the sort of moment-to-moment weapon switching and things is much quicker and clearer. It's a menu that appears as almost hovering in front of you, which is really useful because you can just select what you want. And I think, again, talking about the difficulty, if you're going to be in these situations where you're being attacked and you need to switch weapons quickly, it's good that they've got a system that is clean and kind of easy to pass in the middle of combat.
So that sounds pretty cool. Time will tell whether it is an interesting experiment or like a legitimately different way to play Skyrim. It'll be pretty interesting to find out.
Bethesda are clearly having a really long, hard think about VR.
So having a good old think.
Yeah, exactly. They're trying to work out how to do it best. Seems like they're making progress. They're probably not there yet, but from what I played, it's really exciting. It's just exciting to be in that world in VR.
Awesome.
And it feels totally different. I think the motion control in particular makes it feel like a completely different game.
Cool. Well, if you enjoyed this, then why not subscribe? We've got loads more stuff from E3 to watch. Check it out. And guys, we will see you next time.
Thank you so much for watching this video from the E3 show 2017. We've got another video we think you might like based on sophisticated biometric scanning. Don't question the technology. Just click.
You look like you're dancing.
I'm doing a big fish.
What you should actually watch is this video from outside Xtra here, which is superior and involves no dancing.
No dancing.